Sylvester Stallone came to the live broadcast to promote his movie, but Joy Behar had completely different plans. What happened that day became the biggest disaster in the Rocky creator's career. The View studio buzzed with its characteristic blend of anticipation and controlled chaos as crew members made final adjustments for what was scheduled to be another high-profile celebrity interview. The iconic set, with its vibrant purple and orange color scheme and the famous table that had witnessed countless memorable moments, felt charged with possibility. Today's guest was particularly significant, a Hollywood legend whose career had spanned decades and whose latest project promised to generate substantial audience interest. Whoopi Goldberg sat in her familiar moderator position, reviewing her notes with the careful attention that had made her one of daytime television's most respected hosts. She understood that today's dynamic could prove more complex than usual, given the strong personalities involved and the potential for unpredictable chemistry between her co-hosts and their distinguished guest. Joy Behar occupied her usual spot at the table, her sharp wit at the ready and her comedian's instincts fully engaged. As a veteran of both stand-up comedy and political commentary, she had developed an uncanny ability to identify inconsistencies and hypocrisies in public figures, often using humor as a weapon to expose uncomfortable truths. Today, she seemed particularly focused, suggesting she had done her homework on their guest. Sarah Haynes and Alyssa Farah Griffin completed the panel, both seasoned professionals who understood that The View's format thrived on authentic reactions and unscripted moments. The show's success had always depended on its hosts' willingness to ask uncomfortable questions and challenge guests who might expect deferential treatment based on their celebrity status. At precisely 10:30 a.m., a silver Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the ABC studios, its elegant lines catching the morning sunlight. Sylvester Stallone emerged wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit with a burgundy tie, his appearance calculated to project both Hollywood glamour and working-class authenticity. His signature swagger was evident as he waved to the crowd of fans and photographers who had gathered, his confidence clearly boosted by decades of successful public appearances. His entourage was notably modest for an actor of his stature, just a longtime publicist and a personal assistant, reflecting either supreme confidence in his media skills or a desire to project the everyman image that had become central to his Rocky persona. This streamlined approach would prove to be a critical miscalculation when facing a panel of women known for their uncompromising approach to celebrity interviews. The green room provided temporary sanctuary from the energy of live television production. Stallone sat in a comfortable chair, drinking espresso while reviewing talking points with his publicist. His latest film had been receiving positive reviews, and he had grown comfortable with the rhythm of promotional interviews that typically focused on training regimens, career longevity, and inspirational comeback stories. The View represented familiar territory, a successful daytime program with a predominantly female audience that had always been receptive to his charm. 15 minutes to showtime, a production assistant announced, and Stallone felt that familiar mixture of excitement and slight nervousness that accompanied live television appearances. He had appeared on The View multiple times over the years, and his relationship with the hosts had generally been warm and professional. Today was supposed to be more of the same, friendly conversation, some gentle teasing about his accent and his age, and plenty of opportunities to promote his new project. His phone buzzed with an encouraging text from his wife, reminding him to mention their latest charitable initiative during the interview. The message brought a confident smile to his face, reinforcing his belief that this appearance would follow the predictable pattern of daytime television promotion, supportive questions, audience appreciation, and positive coverage in tomorrow's entertainment blogs. The walk from the green room to the studio felt routine, almost comfortable. The corridors of The View were familiar territory after years of appearances, and the crew members he encountered offered the kind of warm professionalism that had made these shows comfortable stops on promotional tours. This familiarity would soon prove dangerously misleading. Whoopi stood to greet him as he approached the interview area, her embrace warm and genuine. "Sly, great to see you again. Thanks for coming back to see us." "Always a pleasure, Whoopi," Stallone replied, his distinctive voice carrying its characteristic rasp. "You ladies know how to make a guy feel welcome." Joy offered her own greeting with a smile that seemed friendly enough, though those who knew her well might have detected a slight edge in her expression. "Sylvester, looking forward to our chat today." The pre-interview small talk continued for several minutes, discussions about the weather, the studio's recent updates, and how good it was to see him again. But beneath the surface pleasantries, professional instincts were already at work. Joy had noticed something in Stallone's demeanor that struck her as overly confident, almost dismissive, as if he viewed this appearance as nothing more than a routine obligation. 30 seconds to live, the floor director announced, and everyone took their positions around the iconic table. Stallone settled into the guest chair with practiced ease, adjusting his jacket and crossing his legs in a way that projected both authority and accessibility. His movie poster was prominently displayed on the backdrop behind them, perfectly positioned to catch the studio lights. The red recording lights blinked on, and suddenly they were broadcasting live to millions of homes across America. "Good morning, and welcome back to The View," Whoopi began with her characteristic warmth and authority. "We're thrilled to be joined today by the one and only Sylvester Stallone, who's here to talk about his exciting new film and his incredible career. Sly, welcome back to our table." "Good morning, ladies. Thank you for having me," Stallone replied, his smile confident and his energy appropriately matched to the show's upbeat tone. "It's always great to be here with such accomplished women." Sarah leaned forward with genuine enthusiasm. "This new movie looks absolutely incredible. At your age, you're still doing action sequences that would challenge actors half your age. What keeps you motivated to push yourself physically?" It was exactly the kind of question Stallone had prepared for, and he launched into well-rehearsed talking points about discipline, passion for the craft, and the importance of staying connected to the characters that had defined his career. His responses were engaging and peppered with the self-deprecating humor that had endeared him to talk show audiences for decades. For the first 12 minutes, everything proceeded exactly as both he and his team had anticipated. The questions were supportive, focused on his work ethic and career achievements. Stallone felt himself relaxing into the familiar rhythm of daytime television promotion, his confidence growing with each successfully navigated topic. But then Joy's posture shifted in a way that was subtle yet unmistakable to anyone familiar with her interviewing style. Her smile remained in place, but her eyes took on a sharper focus that suggested she was about to move beyond simple promotion into more challenging territory. "Sly," she said, her voice carrying a deceptively casual tone, "you've built this amazing career playing these iconic tough guys, these champions of the underdog. But I have to ask, how do you reconcile that image with some of the real-world positions you've taken over the years?" The question seemed innocent enough on the surface, but Stallone's internal warning systems activated immediately. His smile became slightly more forced, though he maintained his composed exterior. "I'm not sure what you mean, Joy. I think my characters have always represented universal values that people can relate to." Joy's follow-up revealed the trap she had been setting. "But that's just it. Your characters fight against privilege and corruption, yet you've consistently supported political figures and policies that many people see as benefiting the wealthy and powerful at the expense of working people. Don't you see the contradiction there?" The studio atmosphere grew tense as viewers realized they were witnessing something unexpected, a direct political challenge on what was supposed to be a promotional interview. Stallone's hands, which had been resting casually on the armrests of his chair, gripped them more tightly. "I don't think my personal political views should overshadow the entertainment value of my work," he said, his voice carrying a defensive edge that hadn't been there moments before. Joy's laugh was sharp and genuinely amused. "But you can't separate them, can you? When you play Rocky, you're playing a guy who fights for the little people. But in real life, you support politicians who cut programs for those same little people. It's like method acting in reverse." Whoopi attempted to provide some cover for their guest, sensing that Joy was taking the interview into territory that could become uncomfortable for everyone involved. "Joy, maybe we should." "No, it's a fair question," Stallone interrupted, though his tone suggested he found it anything but fair. "I think people can appreciate good storytelling regardless of the politics behind it." Joy leaned forward slightly, her comedian's instincts fully engaged now. "Can they, though? Because Rocky Balboa would probably have a few things to say about a millionaire actor who lives in a mansion supporting tax cuts for the wealthy while playing a character who struggled to pay rent." The audience murmured with a mixture of discomfort and appreciation for Joy's directness. Stallone's face began to flush slightly as he realized he was losing control of the narrative in ways his media training hadn't prepared him for. "You're oversimplifying very complex political issues," he protested, his voice rising just enough to be noticeable. Joy's response was delivered with perfect comedic timing and devastating logic. "Am I? Because it seems pretty simple to me. You make millions playing characters who represent working-class values, then you support policies that hurt working-class people. Either Rocky would be disappointed in you, or you've been lying to audiences for 40 years. Something inside Stallone began to crack under the sustained pressure of Joy's comedic logic applied to his contradictions. His breathing became more labored as he struggled to respond without further undermining his position. "That's completely unfair," he said, his voice beginning to shake with emotion. "You're attacking my personal beliefs to score political points." Joy's expression showed no sympathy whatsoever. "I'm pointing out that your personal beliefs contradict the values of the characters that made you famous. And if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should examine why." "My characters are fictional," Stallone shouted, his composure finally cracking in a way that was visible to everyone watching. "They don't have to match my personal politics." Joy's final assault was delivered with the precision of a surgeon and the timing of a master comedian. "Then why do you keep talking about how much they mean to you? Why do you claim they represent your values and your background? You can't have it both ways, Sly. Either they matter to you personally, or they're just paychecks." The question hung in the air like a logical trap that Stallone couldn't escape. His breathing became audibly labored, and tears of frustration began to form in his eyes as he realized he had no response that wouldn't contradict either his public persona or his political positions. "You don't understand," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You don't know what it's like to carry these characters for so many years." Joy's response was merciless in its clarity. "I understand that you've built a career on pretending to be something you're not, and you're angry that someone finally called you out on it." Stallone shot to his feet so suddenly that his chair rolled backward, his face contorted with rage and humiliation. "This is unbelievable. I came here to talk about my movie, not to be ambushed by some political attack." Joy remained seated, looking up at him with the satisfied expression of a comedian who had just delivered the perfect punchline. "I asked you one question about the contradiction between your screen persona and your real-world politics. If that feels like an attack, maybe the problem isn't the question. The problem is you." Stallone screamed, his voice echoing through the studio. "You can't just let people enjoy movies without dragging politics into everything." Joy's final observation was delivered with devastating calm. "Politics was always there, Sly. You just didn't notice because it was working in your favor." As Stallone grabbed his water bottle and turned toward the exit, Joy delivered the line that would become the most quoted moment of her entire career at The View. "Hey, Sly," she called out, her voice carrying the perfect blend of humor and contempt that had made her a comedy legend. "Next time you want to play a working-class hero, maybe try not supporting politicians who make it harder for working-class people to survive." The words hit Stallone like a physical blow. He stopped dead in his tracks, his entire body trembling with barely contained fury. For a moment, it looked like he might turn around and physically confront her. Instead, he shook his head in disgust and stormed toward the exit. His footsteps echoed loudly against the studio floor as he fled, the sound amplifying in the sudden silence that had fallen over the entire space. The cameras followed him until he disappeared through the backstage door, leaving behind a quiet so complete that even the audience seemed afraid to breathe. For several long moments, nobody moved. Joy sat at the table with a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth, clearly satisfied with her performance. The other hosts remained frozen, processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. Finally, Whoopi found her voice. "Well," she said slowly, "that was certainly not in the script." Joy shrugged with the casual confidence of someone who had just completed a successful comedy set. "Sometimes the script writes itself. You just have to be willing to read it." Sarah attempted to restore some normalcy to the situation. "When we come back, we'll be discussing the latest developments in." But everyone knew that nothing could follow what they had just witnessed. The rest of the show would be anticlimactic, a footnote to a moment that would be replayed and analyzed for months to come. As the show cut to commercial, the hosts sat in contemplative silence. They had all witnessed dramatic moments before, but this felt different. This felt like the complete exposure of a carefully maintained public persona through the simple application of logical consistency. Meanwhile, somewhere in the ABC building, Sylvester Stallone was probably locked in a bathroom, trying to compose himself enough to face the inevitable photographers waiting outside. His publicist was likely fielding frantic calls and attempting to craft some kind of damage control narrative about hostile interview tactics and unfair ambushes. But the comedic damage was irreversible. In less than 10 minutes, one of daytime television's sharpest wits had systematically exposed the fundamental contradiction at the heart of a Hollywood legend's career. She had used humor as a weapon of truth-telling, demonstrating that sometimes the most effective way to reveal hypocrisy is simply to point it out with perfect timing and uncompromising logic. The truth, as Joy had demonstrated, doesn't require elaborate setup or sophisticated argumentation. Sometimes it just needs someone brave enough to ask the obvious question that everyone else is too polite to voice. In those 10 minutes, daytime television had witnessed the complete deconstruction of a carefully managed celebrity image through nothing more than consistent application of the character values that had made that celebrity famous in the first place.